All right. Well, obviously, big game, big environment, right? The part that I think our guys have really embraced every game is take their preparation as well as the details of that into each week. And even though this is the Michigan game, two ranked teams playing it, the group has kind of handled their business Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like they always have. A couple injury updates. Kaden Feagin is actually literally out of town right now. We found some outside voices that we want to talk to about his injury. Should know a lot more by the weekend on where that's going, but he won't be with us this weekend. But super excited for those other guys. I thought the emergence of Josh McCray last week, who just really had waited for this opportunity, for that moment, took full advantage of it. Aiden Lawfrey's 100%, probably the best he's been since we got here, and Khalil as well. So I know those three guys are excited. Offensively, defensively, had some guys banged up, but everybody should be back with us. Xavier obviously pulled out midway through that first quarter, but should be with us full go on Saturday. And I like the way our guys have approached their recovery, which I think has helped us in the injury department. And super excited to see these guys get out there Saturday and see where it goes.
I know this kind of announced one quarterback, but are you planning to maybe see multiple?
I think we'll see. We've seen three, and I'm expected to see all three. To be honest, each one of them, are very good players that have their own unique skill set. But I would guess that we'd see not only two, but probably three, based on scenarios, what they do well. But as we learned last week, right, it's about how you play every snap, and I think our guys probably last week's process is probably helping us with this week just as much as anything.
Yeah, what's that look like? What's that prep? Sure.
Yeah. Well, play to the strengths, right? Obviously, Orgy's in there and what he brings to the table and his skill set. He's a very dynamic, explosive player. They run the ball effectively with running backs, but with him in there, they run it as well at the quarterback room. So, and then really the other two are probably more of a traditional what you see out of their offense in the past. So, we do expect to see both.
Josh Whitman is around you guys a lot, obviously. Him talking to you guys tomorrow night, being involved, or tomorrow Saturday. Just what do you expect from him? What would you want him to say to those guys? Because he's been through this game.
I want Josh Whitman to be Josh Whitman. That's kind of, I've never, been here going to my fourth year. We've had guest captains every game, and he literally asked the same question. I said, Josh, I want you to be you, right? Whatever's on your heart. I usually tell our guys earlier in the week who our guest captain is. And I told them on Sunday, just because I knew I was going to announce it Monday in the presser, that he was going to be our guest captain. And there's a lot of smiles. And then I kind of shared with him a story the last time two ranked opponents were here when he was a senior. I think it gives them a perspective, sure. Right? But yeah, I just super excited for the whole weekend. But Josh, we let those guys talk at 3:30 on Friday in the team room. And obviously Josh talks to our team every year, so it's not the first time he's in front of this group, but it's the first time I'm going to try to make when I do the introductions, I always talk about their accomplishments on the football field. And so I've never really introduced Josh in that light, right? I've always introduced him as our athletic director. Tomorrow I'm going to introduce him as a former player, and that'll be different.
I mean, you talked Monday about Pat and the Blitnikoff watch list, and I actually added 4 receivers this week and not him. Like, what more does he have to do?
Letter writing campaign, I guess. Bret's been all over it. We had to go through the same thing last year with Isaiah Williams, right? And Isaiah put himself in a position to be one of the best in the country. Pat, I think, has already done that. And Blitnikoff, if you hear me, that's not asking him to win the award. I'm asking him to be on the watch list.
Right, it looked like last week, and we've seen you guys use like some of those short passes as kind of like an extension of the run game. What do you like about that look, and how can that help you guys?
Well, I think two things. Luke is a very, I think the part that he brings to the table, he's an accomplished passer that can throw the deep ball very effectively. Accomplishments you've seen with Pat and Zakari and a couple others, but also the intermediate to short. And I think when you have a quarterback like that, to take advantage of all three as a coordinator, when I was a defense coordinator, if you have a quarterback that can throw the 3 throws, short, intermediate, and long, those are very hard to defend, right? And then I think with the backfield that we have, even with Kaden in it, all 4 of those guys have pretty soft hands. And in the wide receiver room, we have bigger guys that we feel can break some tackles, all right? So I think those short to intermediate routes can be a big part of what we're doing.
Coach, all the stuff going around the game,
Mm-hmm.
I know you got a job to do. So do you even think about that stuff at all, the symposiums and the anniversary and all that kind of stuff? Is that kind
No,
of...
and actually Josh was out there today. I asked him his schedule because I know he's doing something tonight and he's got a bunch of things tomorrow.
Right.
And of course they said I can come to anything, but I think it's important for me, to work hand in hand with Josh. He knows that I'm here to be a football coach, and I do a lot of things in the community. I do a lot of things, but not a lot during the season. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't have any commitment to that. We've made our players aware of this week way before this week, so right. I don't think it's a big deal to them in their daily routine. So, but it's a lot to the outside world, which is what it's all about, right? You're trying to build this program from a foundation standpoint with a fan base, tickets, NIL contributions, all that stuff. Like, this is a big moment to try and seize.
It's with Kaden. Is this a unique experience for you as a coach? Maybe having to consult coast to coast like you have on an injury?
Yes and no. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but the one thing that I've been very impressed, I said this I think last week, that Caden's injury is a little bit unique. And literally in my entire coaching career as a head coach, I've had one that was in the ballpark but not close to it, right? So we went to outside source there. And so I think the part that's been awesome for me with the medical staff is they literally were researching people before I even had a chance to ask the question. So for the injury that he has, or the world that he's in, we literally got a hold of 2 or 3 of the best in the country that at what they do on not only a college level but an NFL level, and in this case even pro baseball. So I think there's some things that will come to light at the end, but it's unusual but not that unusual.
How is he? Like, how's he handling
He's
this?
good. Yeah, he's been good. I talked to him last night. I talked to him in person every day since it happened. Working with Jen, his mom is obviously, as you guys know, in the recruiting process. Him and his brother, Jen and his brother, we had a long conversation 2 nights ago, kind of when we made a decision to go see this doctor. And really just his spirits remain very upbeat. I mean, I know he knows this season's been cut short. It's hard because last year it was as well, but this is why those opportunities exist, right? And we'll get through this moment. Every indication is, whatever this decision ends up being about how this is handled, he'll be back with us at some point, whether it's the spring, but for sure by fall.
Your one win from clinching bowl eligibility, is that something you're talking about in the locker room?
No. Great point. I hadn't even thought of it, right? So the part that I think has really been overwhelmingly most impressive to me is the way our guys have handled every week, right? Going into the Kansas week, it was about playing Kansas, right? Going into the Nebraska week, it was about playing Nebraska. Penn State was Penn State. Last week was obviously Purdue. So every game has a different storyline, but our guys have focused on the daily process and the 365 days a year that we work for these moments. But obviously, I think from the outside world looking in, things do change. They don't in this building, right? Like Mark Torsani, who's my chief staff, has been with me forever. We don't talk about postseason play until postseason play is an option, right? So I really don't get engaged in those conversations until they happen.
I mean, I don't know that every team can maybe have that 1-0 mindset every week. Is there something about this group that they've maybe stuck with that process?
Well, I literally, everybody thinks it's for when you're 5-1, right? But I used it when we were, 1-5, right? Or whatever we were that first year, right? Like, sometimes things can get overly positive, but things can get overly negative as well. So the truth lies in between, right? Like, you got to take moment for what it is. If you ever in a situation, the best thing you do is focus on the moment, not on the results, right? And I think that's a big part of what we do. And it's been from day one since we got here to where we are now. The approach this week to play Michigan and have a 2 ranked opponents is the same approach when we were, underdogs by 1,000 at Penn State and had a 9 overtime win, right? The process if you looked at what we did that week, it's the exact same plan that we use this week. It's different schemes, it's different game plans, but the details to get to Saturday were the exact same.
You said something interesting the other day about you want to be routinely in the big game. Is that kind of and having CBS here, which they were here 40 years ago from Michigan, is that kind of what you want? That kind of have those guys have the big shot announcers.
The only reason Brad Nessler is a very good friend of mine.
Okay.
So I forget which network he was working for when he called and said, "Hey, I think I'm coming to your game." So it's more about the conversations I had with Josh about sustaining success, right? Like, sure. I think for us, if we're able to have success as a football program, it became very clear to me when I went to other places that the times and the places I've been, when I was at Iowa and I was at Wisconsin, where there was tremendously successful football programs, that not only took care of football, it took care of the community, it took care of the athletic department, took care of a lot of problems for other people, right? So I think that's been the driving force. 2 years ago, we got to a mark, but we weren't able to sustain it. And, I thought we were still building it, but there are a lot of things that give me pleasure to know that we're moving in the right direction. But yeah, I would hope that this is more of the same, not more of the exception.
I'm sorry, just
Last one here.
for clarity, you said with Kaden, you mentioned the spring and the fall. Is it your expectation you won't see him again this year, or is that like a worst case scenario?
No, I think that we're still in this process. I think to think that he's going to be back anytime soon is not real, but I don't want to comment until I know the facts. Like, he literally hasn't had a decision on what is going to be done or how it's going to be done until we gather all the information. We've literally consulted probably about 4 or 5 different voices, here on campus, but also around in the country.
Thank you, guys.